So welcome everyone. My name is Caroline Logan. I am Programme Director for BuildForce, reporting to you from a misty, warm Dorset day. So delighted today to have with us one of our employers, Altrad, and a fantastic lineup of military magic from their different core areas of the business. And they're going to introduce to you those fantastic new chapters that you can look into. So are you sitting comfortably? Sit back and enjoy. Over to you, Angela.
So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the BuildForce virtual chat. My name is Angela Forbes. So BuildForce is a collaboration of employers working across the construction industry and wider built environment. And it's to support our service leaver and veteran community. And these virtual chats showcase this incredible sector, the careers that are available to you and our phenomenal employers. So today we extend a very warm welcome to Altrad, the global leader, the global leader in industrial services. They are proving very popular amongst our service leaver community at the moment and have some outstanding veterans within their team, some of whom you will hear from today. So to hear more about the endless possibilities within this giant, we welcome Altrad UK CEO John Walsh. So John, thank you to you and your team. We'll also hear from veteran Ali Lee, who sits in the nuclear business, veteran Paul Ahmed in offshore, veteran Jamie Martinez in tech. Carly Atkinson joins us from talent management, and the much respected veteran Mike Butterworth, CBEDL, will talk us through pathways. So we will take questions at the end. Feel free to write in any comments as we go, and we will kick off straight away. So we'll hand over to you, John, to commence the presentation. Welcome, John.
Great. Thank you very much, Angela. Thanks, Caroline. And welcome to everybody on the call today. It'd be great to be doing this personally, but I guess this is the next best thing. Just by way of introduction, yeah, I'm John Walsh. I'm the CEO of Altrad in the UK and our wider region. We also have responsibility for Ireland and Scandinavia within our part of Altrad. And over the next 90 minutes or so, I hope that you'll be genuinely excited about what you hear about Altrad. We're not a household name, and probably unless you watch international rugby, you've probably never heard of us. But there are actually 10,000 of us in the UK and 60,000 people within Altrad within the whole world. So despite our relatively low profile, we're all incredibly proud to be part of what we're creating within our business. And we'd love you to be part of a very ambitious and energetic team. As has already been said, we're the leader in industrial services within the UK and globally. And what that means is that we maintain our nation's critical infrastructure. So if you think of power stations, if you think of petrochemical facilities, think of heavy industry. I think we've still got a bit of that left in the UK. We're there. Those are our traditional areas that we operate in. But we're also in pharmaceuticals, increasingly as we start to build into energy transition projects, we're there as well. So we're onshore, we're offshore. And what we do is we support our blue chip clients to keep their infrastructure running. We're growing rapidly. We do that both organically and through acquisition. And we're, as we've already said, very ambitious. Just to put some sort of colour and context on that, our founder, Mohed Altrad, he started the business around about 40 years ago. And today the group is over €5.5 billion of revenues. So it's grown quite rapidly, particularly over the last 10 years or so. That entrepreneurial spirit that comes from our founder, you'll find that right throughout Altrad. It permeates our whole business. At the beginning of this calendar year, beginning of 2025, even 2024, getting ahead of myself, beginning of 2024, we wrote a new strategic plan for our part of the group. And within that, we said we wanted to grow our business by 50% over the next 5 years. 50% from a financial perspective. And what that meant was growing it by around about 5,000 people. Now, at one level, that sounds hugely ambitious. It is. But already within our pipeline of opportunities, we can see that we're going to have to rewrite upwardly those ambitions. Already we can see that very likely we're going to be growing more than that over the next 5 years. Financially, we're very strong, we're very stable. Sometimes rapid growth can bring a lot of risk with it. You see that a lot in the corporate world. But I'd have to say we're run very prudently. Our business fundamentals are very good. We have very good shareholder support and institutional support beyond that. So although we've been through this period of very rapid growth, we're a very stable and financially secure business. The limiting factor to our growth are people. People like you, we hope. We believe that we can offer you rewarding and fulfilling careers within Altrad, and that you can be part of the growth story that I've just been talking about. Everyone, we think, within Altrad has the opportunity to influence how we progress. The language that we use, the way we talk about it, is leaving our fingerprints or our DNA imprinted on the business. We think that everybody within Altrad has the opportunity to do that, to leave part of their very self on the future of the business. Now, in our search for new people to come into the business, to look for this 5,000 people coming into our business over the next 4 or 5 years, we've seen a lot of overlap between the values and the mindset of what we would call Altrad people and those from a military background. So and I suppose some of the characteristics that we see are people who aren't afraid of hard work, who aren't afraid of rolling up their sleeves, who aren't afraid of getting stuck in. People who are passionate about what they do. We already have a lot of ex-military people in our business, but we'd like a lot more because, as I say, we see a lot of those characteristics in military personnel, and those are the type of people who will make our business even more successful. We do recognise that leaving the military is a big step. Over the last year or so, we've set up what we call the Altrad Military Network within our business, and that's to help people through that transition process. The network is made up of people like you, ex-servicemen and women who've already navigated their way into industry. We recently signed the Military Covenant, and are working our way up through the employer recognition scheme within that. And it's not just about joining Altrad. Of course, we'd love you to join Altrad, but we see that as the first step in what we want to be a long and rewarding career. And when I say rewarding, I mean in all senses of the word. Of course, financially, but much more beyond that in terms of what you can achieve in life. Our commitment to our people is to reinvest 5% of our profits every year into people's training and development. And Carly will talk. Carly, who's our talent development manager, ex-military herself, she'll talk more about that in a bit. And the range and location of opportunities within Altrad is vast. You know, we're across the whole country, the whole of the UK and beyond. Like I say, we're a global business. And just because you start in one geography or discipline, that doesn't mean, well, that's it. We want people who are as hungry as we are to develop, to grow, to explore new opportunities, to have a spirit of adventure even, because that very much fits into who we are at Altrad.
Brilliant. Thanks, John. That's given us a great introduction to what we will now do, which is bring to life that which John has said through the words and stories of the veterans that were introduced to you by Angela at the start. Some of those veterans, like Ali, has just joined, and she has just joined through the BuildForce programme. So you can see the value of what BuildForce does for us, and also the quality of people that we're getting into the business. But we're going to take a risk now, because I'm going to start with a bit of tech. And here is a new video that we've just produced. Let's see if it works, and if it doesn't, I'll ad lib.
The Altrad Military Network means Altrad UK is a place where service leavers can thrive. We are the critical human infrastructure that supports our nation's vital assets. Our people make a difference in the world as we solve critical challenges through innovation, creativity, and teamwork. We're part of the Altrad Group, with almost 52,000 people distributed through more than 50 countries worldwide. At Altrad, you're part of something bigger.
At Altrad, our people create endless possibilities.
We know what you've been through, and we know what you can bring to Altrad.
I'm Carly, and I belong here.
I'm Jenna Martinez, and I'm part of the Altrad Military Network, and this is where I belong.
Join Altrad's Military Network. Email military.altraduk@altrad.com. Come with us. The possibilities are endless.
Great, well that worked. So that's a good start. Right, let me just very briefly talk about those sectors that John introduced, and then we'll get Ali and the others talking about their experience. Nuclear sector. The nuclear sector is perhaps the biggest part of Altrad that is growing. I would draw your attention to the picture on there. That's Hinkley Point C, what it's going to look like. Doesn't look like that right now, but this is the place where we are growing fastest and most. This is our new nuclear power station that we are helping to build and develop. And guess what? It's going to be replaced by not replaced, but another one, Sizewell C, across the country, which we'll also be heavily involved in. So the nuclear industry is fundamental to Altrad's growth. And it's the place where we think there could be some really rewarding careers over not just the next few years, but potentially decades. Because as Ali will explain, there are nuclear power stations that we're working on now, which are decommissioning over a period of time, places like Sellafield. Now, the sort of roles we've got there, there's primarily, Altrad exists on skilled trades. These are the trades that you can see there, the welders, the pipe fitters, the platers, the engineers, those sort of people. They're going to be on site, turning a spanner, doing the stuff that makes Altrad so good. But behind that is the whole infrastructure of project managers, quality assurance, planners, logisticians, health and safety, such an important thing for Altrad, given the sites that we work on. So the nuclear sector is one of our key parts. But as John said, we also work offshore. Now, for those who have done a bit of research, they'll know that offshore is a really great place for ex-military to serve because they like the lifestyle. Paul will talk about this a little bit more, but 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off it sort of feels like being on operational tours, as many military who are serving outside on the rigs and platforms that are in the North Sea will tell you. This is really about those skilled trades again, but some of the sort of work we do there is really potentially exciting. Again, Paul hangs off a rope, blasting and painting away off these platforms. It's pretty exciting stuff. But again, it's not just the trades, it's that which hangs behind that as well. So offshore, Paul will talk about. Jamie will talk about onshore. Onshore is, if you like, the core of the business. And as John said, this is about those great big power stations that you've probably driven past and thought, who works there? Well, we do. And again, it's those skilled trades that make those assets actually work. But again, it's about the project managers, the supervisors, and logisticians that make, or the teams that we have on these sites. Someone like Drax, we're talking several hundred people at any one time from Altrad on that particular site. So these are big, that's almost like a battalion of soldiers on those sites. So that's that gives you the scale of the operation that we're running on. And then the new area, the new kid on the block, if you like, is our major projects and asset management. This is where we're, the markets are changing out there and we need to be part of that. That is a picture of the hydrogen plants that is going to be built on Teesside. These are the sort of projects that we're getting involved in. And again, this is where we need problem solvers. Yes, engineering background is really helpful, but it's not just that, because we've got loads of specialists, but we need those teams of specialists to be led as well. So problem solving and project management are key parts of what we do. So that gives you a sense of the sectors we work in. And of course, we're a business, therefore we have the back office and all the development of career progression, the HR that you would expect a business like us to have. And as John has mentioned, we've already got lots of veterans in the business and they're thriving. We really want more and we want the skills that you will bring to come in, no matter what part of the military you're from. But if you're from a technical engineering background, we really do need to have a conversation. And I'll come back to that at the end. But without any further ado, I think what really matters is that you hear the stories of the veterans, and what each will do is paint a picture of what they're doing and talk about their own transitions, all of whom were different, all of whom came from different parts of the forces. Unfortunately, today, they're all from the Army. If you're Royal Air Force or Navy, please don't read anything in that. When you saw the video there were people from other services who were on that, and absolutely, it's not just an Army thing, this, it's absolutely the forces. But Ali, over to you.
Thank you. So I'm not that much ahead of many of you on the call. I've spent 20 plus years in the Royal Engineers and only left this summer, leaving as a Lieutenant Colonel. I've been with Altrad a mere 3 months. So just in terms of my career, I spent most of my the last sort of 10 years or so centered around capability management. I did the Battle Space Technology course as a junior major, and then a variety of roles around Army headquarters and on tour, looking at things like infrastructure development. I was a project desk officer for engineer equipment. I also did some roles around money and the equipment program funding, and then planning and assurance. So I did a variety of roles around capability management. But about almost exactly a year ago, in fact, I made the decision that I wanted to leave the Army. And obviously immediately, what do I want to do? I knew I could build on that experience. I knew that problem solving, as Mike has mentioned, was one of the things that I've tried to be good at over my career. But most importantly was identifying what was important to me. And for me, it was about location. For others, it will be any number of different things. But for me, it was about having that stability and knowing where I was going to be, where I was going to be living, where I was going to be traveling to work. And so through my transition, I discounted other potential roles, such as consultancies, because I didn't want to have that feeling of moving around. But everybody will be different. So for me, it was about location. I have a very lovely house now up in Cumbria, and so it was about what industries were around the area. So Sellafield was an obvious location to look at, and that sort of leaned towards nuclear. Sellafield has an overarching mission to be decommissioned by 2140. So it'll be there long after we're all retired and then gone. There are significant opportunities, and there are opportunities at every level, as Mike has mentioned. So whether you are a fitter, whether you are a project or program manager, there will be something for you. I work within a project framework called PPP. It is the Project and Programme Partners, and that's a 15+ year framework contract with Sellafield. And those partners include KBR, they include Amentum, formerly Jacobs, Morgan Sindall, and Altrad. So it is very much a partnership. And actually, one of the real valuable parts of the role is that actually it's almost impossible to identify who works for which partner. It is truly a blended team, and we all bring different skills to the party, different elements, but all aimed at helping Sellafield conduct their mission to decommission and in effect become a greenfield site by 2140. And not only within the PPP, there are multiple other framework contracts. Altrad has a presence in many of them, and there are multiple opportunities, not just within PPP, but across the wider site. What do I do? In some ways, I feel that I'm doing things that aren't a great deal different from what I did in the army, and I'm trying to solve problems. I am trying to drive efficiency within the PPP program to draw economies of scale, to enable the seller field to get value out of its programs by getting projects to think more widely, to think on a more programmatic level. You'd think this would be, maybe this would be a sort of straightforward thing, but it is a hugely complex site with hugely complex programs, and actually getting people to think on a more enterprise level has been a real challenge. So only this morning, one of the challenges that we were looking at is one project is going to create some waste, just soil waste because they're digging a hole. You can't take any of that waste off site until that's been checked, so that you can confirm that there's no chemical or radiological contamination before it can leave the site. The site is very congested. Where are we going to put it so that it can be tested, so that it can be cleared, and then it can be removed from site and disposed of appropriately? And it sounds almost simple, but it just needs that bit of military, right, we just need to get on and sort this out type attitude that that will enable the project to move forward and ultimately adding value from our perspective. So huge amounts of opportunity, really interesting. There are so many parallels every day with what I'm doing to what I was doing back in Army headquarters. That might be a blessing. In some ways, it might be a curse, but I've really been able to lean on my experience. So how did I get here? I would advise you to use the ex-military network extensively. Lots of people will tell you it's all about networking, and that is absolutely true. You will be bored with people telling you that it's all about the network, but it really truly is. Use the resources open to you. Things like BuildForce have been absolutely invaluable. Things like Angela took a slightly panicked phone call from me when I was preparing for one of my interviews, and she sort of talked me through the sorts of things that might be discussed, and that was really helpful to me. BuildForce also provided me with an ex-military mentor who was just a brilliant sounding board for my sort of thought process. They weren't trying to sort of guide me in any particular way, but they really helped me sort of clarify my thinking. And my final sort of 2 points that I would just sort of give you as advice would be just to understand how military processes translate into the civilian world. So, for example, if you might have been an equipment desk officer, you may not have been, but something like that, and the idea of taking a project through the business case, SOC, OBC, and FBC business cases. That is no different in the civilian world. So I'm working in the civilian sector, but ultimately the process of investment is very similar. So understand things like the Treasury Green Book, understand how major programs are governed, because often the industry, whether it's Altrad or another, are using those processes for government major investment. So that's really important. And understanding money and how money works is really very helpful as you go forward. So BuildForce has been really helpful to me, and I'm having a great time learning about the nuclear sector. But if I can help anybody sort of going forward, then I'm more than happy through BuildForce to do so.
Brilliant. Ali, thank you very much for that. And it's worth noting that Ali was at an event. I'd known Ali in the Army headquarters when I was working there as well. We got talking, and the rest ends up in Sellafield. So, hey, it does work, this networking thing. Right, now for something completely different. Let me introduce Paul. Paul works in our offshore sector. But Paul.
Good afternoon, everyone. So if you just look to your right, that is a real picture. It's not edited. That's how cool some of the sights you can get while offshore. And of course, that's me looking super Ali while in service. So I served 16 years, leaving in 2016 as a sergeant, served over in Afghanistan, and I was also as a PTI at Harrogate, leaving as a GMLRS or MLRS DC. So I think I'll cut straight into my transition rather than past history within the military. So my transition was, I would say I was blind. I didn't have the network and the social media side of what we've got nowadays, or it was there, but I didn't utilize it enough. So looking back, it's probably a big regret that I didn't use that enough to get here where I am today. No doubt I would have got here a lot sooner. So I knew that I always wanted to go into the offshore sector, but I didn't know how to get into the offshore sector. And one of the things we always discuss is that translating your CV out of that military jargon and turning it into civilian speak as such. So of course, there's a lot of things that we do in the military that can that we can match up into that sort of, for me, the offshore sector. And as I got more experience within the offshore sector, it became apparent that a lot of my traits, a lot of the skills that I learned in the military, I was able to utilize them a hell of a lot more. So again, one of the first things I would say is rewrite your CV, have a look at it and translate it over towards the offshore sector. Now, again, I've worked for a couple of different companies once I'd left the military in the offshore sector. And for me, being with Altrad for just over a year and a half, Altrad tops them above the rest. The most important thing that I enjoy and I take away from Altrad, and why I chose Altrad, was this, what we've got now, this the military network, and the being valued as ex-military is absolutely fantastic. Now, my role now offshore is fabric maintenance foreman, and Mike touched on it earlier. I'm rope access, and for you that don't know what rope access is, it's pretty much you're swinging from the rig, on rope, and you're blasting and painting and putting up habitats to contain the grit while in blasting operations. So there's a hell of a lot that goes into. I think some people get a bit confused when we say we're painters offshore, that you just swing it from a lampshade, paint your mum's kitchen. I can assure it's a lot more different, a lot more dangerous than that. But again, as I touched on that danger side, we as ex-military, I know I do, we still buzz off that element of what if, and that excitement. So for me, being offshore, the excitement, even just who can say they go to work via a helicopter, and it's just fantastic. So again, in my job, being the foreman now and also a safety rep, gives me that position, something that I did miss at the start. I did miss that authority, that sometimes if you've left the military with a bit of rank, it's something that it's hard to adjust. That's what I found. I found it's very hard to adjust, and starting from that bottom and working your way back up. But I can promise you that within Altrad, it is recognised. your hard work is always recognized, and you are praised for that also. So yes, as a foreman, I can deal with a team of up to 12 people offshore and direct them onto each given task that we have throughout the day. And that's from everything from leading the tasks themselves and delivering risk assessments and their general work and duties, and ensure that everyone's safe in regards to their risk assessments and PPE and so on. But most importantly, that we all go home safe. And being ex-military, again, that is one of the things that we all do best, is that we've got an aspect on safety. And that was why that I become an elected safety rep offshore, which again gives me a nice big red shiny helmet. So people know that when I'm coming to it, it's pretty much like a PTI, everyone's scared of us. So I think having that red helmet again gives you that, not so much the professional, but you're there as someone who's there to be looked up to. And I enjoy that. I do enjoy speaking to everyone, making sure everyone's safe, making sure we're doing everything right. Yes. So moving on, top tip. So my top tip, and this is something again that I wish I could go back and talk to myself, is don't leave anything to chance and start planning your transition as early as possible. So what I mean by that is, don't sit back and think that everything's going to come to you and you deserve everything just because you're leaving the forces. It's up to you now to pull your finger out and go for it. Everything is here for you. And I always say that the grass is always greener, and it's as green as you want it to be. But it's very important that you pull your finger out and you chase down, you use the military networks. You, again, if anyone wants to speak to me after this, then please feel free to contact me, and we can talk some more about the offshore sector. But again, offshore life, it suits me because I'm on a 2 weeks on and 3 weeks off rota. And I enjoy that because I can plan a life now with my family. I have a young son. So again, I know what I'm doing, where am I going, and that's just having that whole year planned out and holidays and so on means that when you're in the military, sometimes that get taken away from you. But now it's not going to happen. There's an opportunity, if work commits to that you can work a little bit more. And again, that's always fantastic, especially coming up to Christmases and etc. It's always good for a little bit extra money. Money-wise, I know that's what everyone's thinking. Everyone's sitting there, and we all hear that how fantastically paid offshore workers are. Again, I do not complain. It is a fantastic wage, but you do work for it, and that's the difference. It is a dangerous environment, but you have to approach it with an aspect of safety once again. So that concludes my brief as such and my intro. If anyone would like to speak to me after or get in contact, then please. Thank you very much.
Hey, brilliant. Thanks, Paul. Paul does a great job as well of anybody who's interested in offshore. We always ask them to have a chat to Paul. Paul will take you through what life is like, as he's just explained there, but also about the courses that you would need to do to be qualified to go offshore, which you can do in your resettlement. And again, I'm sure we'll pick that up in questions of what that looks like. But there are some things you must do in order to get into this sector, and that's primarily to do with the safety that Paul has explained so well, and is so important in this part. Right, again, something completely different, and that gives you a theme of the sort of things that Altrad does. It works in so many different parts of this industry. Let's now go to Jamie Martinez. You've seen him starring in that video already, but Jamie has a different story to tell and works in a different part of the business. Over to you, Jamie. With magically next to me.
Good afternoon, all. Yes. Cringy mugshot there. So I've been out nearly 10 years now. I left the remit. I was on tips of vehicles, leaving as a WO1, settling in the northeast of England. Probably some of you dialing into this, not quite sure what you want to do. You know, I was in your shoes. So I wasn't really sure what I wanted to go into. A lot of my peers in the remit, warrant officers, project management was something that everyone said, oh yeah, you know, you've got the skill set, you know, you've had the training through the REME, you've had the experience, you know, do some project management courses and the world's your oyster. And I'm not saying I fell into that trap, but I certainly followed that pathway, did print, APMP, all those sort of courses that you do. And I still wasn't really sure that was for me. And I did try to did apply for some project management positions, and they were very difficult to even get an acknowledgement, let alone get in the room and sell your wares, so to speak. That did sort of perpetuate the doubt for me. I did know I had transferable skills, but it was getting that opportunity. The network that I used when I left was very much a PALS network, not a structured network, not BuildForce, CTP, or the REME Association Job Agency, which is a very good one as well that we use for my core. I relied on people I'd worked with who left before me. I was sending them texts, ringing them up, meeting them for a beer or a coffee, and asking them questions and seeing opportunities. And that's how I got onto the ladder. You know, it was very much my own built network, so to speak. Looking back now, you know, the opportunities that are out today, you know, some of them weren't available 10 years ago, some of them were, but I didn't use them. And that's a big takeaway, you know, use these structured networks, don't just rely on the old PALS network. The old PALS network's great, but sometimes where you settle in, you might not have connections there. So organizations that can help you geographically, you know, is what you want to be looking at as well. I'm in the onshore part of the business now. I work on a power plant down in Selby, in central Yorkshire. I started off around the Middlesbrough area, petrochemical. Altrad have very much got concentrations where a major industry is: Aberdeen, central Scotland, on the west coast, Heysham, Runcorn around there, and then on the east coast you've got Middlesbrough, the central areas such as Birmingham, the Yorkshire sort of like power generation triangle they call it, nuclear sites, and then down on the south coast, Forley. So, but they've got a lot of in-between stuff as well, a lot of singular contracts that aren't in those areas, and a lot of diversity: petrochemical, as was touched on earlier, power generation, nuclear, food and beverage manufacturing, construction. So there is a large variety, but you know, the principles, the core transferable skills that we all have, okay, they go across all those different types of businesses and those different areas. It's just finding your fit. Now, tapping into military networks, such as, you know, the one that Altrad have got, allows you to ask the questions, find out, you know, where your skills could be best used, and also what suits you as well, what suits the business. I found it a niche for me in performance and improvement. So I've done a lot of things through the military, you know, lean, that sort of stuff, and workforce management, and that all seemed to come together. And my first opportunity was in being an improvement engineer. And yes, I took a pay cut, you know, but I realised that I had to take a pay cut just to get myself a foothold, learn the business, and get an understanding of what industry was like. And it didn't take, like Paul said, it doesn't take long for you to get recognised and start to climb back up and get back into the positions of both, you know, leadership and something that salary-wise is commensurate with what you're used to when you're in the forces. So just bear that in mind as well. And I hope I've not put people off project management. You know, there's plenty of opportunities out there, certainly with Altrad as well. But you might want to look at going in as supporting a project rather than having this, you know, this fixed view of I want to go in and I want to lead a project. They're few and far between. And you might want to think about going in and supporting a project, understanding, maybe using your GRT as well to go in and look at companies, and they have a look at you as well. That's a good opportunity. There's a lot of commercial understanding. I touched on it earlier. When we're in the military, we had constraints, whether they were timing, whether they were manpower or deadlines. Okay, but not necessarily monetary restrictions. We didn't know what the budget was. We just knew how much time we had, how much men we had, what we had to do, how much equipment, we had to do it with. You've got to understand in industry what the monetary implications are, how much you've got to spend, how much it's going to cost you, what your rate of spend will be, what if I buy that instead of buying that, and that sort of stuff. And what's the benefit if I do that? How much will it save me? What's the efficiency going to be? How am I going to sell that? Whether it's putting it forward as a business proposal or doing it afterwards, showing, what the efficiency you have saved. I was quite green for that. That's something that I've learned during the time that I've left. What I'm doing now is I'm studying with Durham University on a senior leader apprenticeship. It's a government apprenticeship, but it's supported by my employer. It's sort of like a mini MBA. It's at level 7, so it's a pathway to MBA if I want to top up. Altrad supporting me with the time at university. Each module starts with some classroom time. What that does is those modules give you an understanding of things like the commercial side of industry, marketing, ethics and sustainability, things that maybe you don't have day-to-day responsibilities for when you're in the military. So, and I've been out 10 years now, and I'm on an apprenticeship. I'm a 50-year-old apprentice. I'm quite proud of saying that. But it's given me that understanding of the wider context of industry, and it's allowing me to learn more about the company that I'm working for. Because a lot of my modules that I do, the assignments that I do inside those modules, I use Altrad as the source for it. Get all my information based on my assignments on Altrad. So it gives me a good opportunity to look about the company and to stretch myself to gain more understanding of the business and in the wider context of the industry. So there's plenty of opportunities, once you get in there, certainly with Altrad, to keep developing and stretching and looking about as well. So yeah, so the takeaway for me is about those military networks. Okay, look beyond the PALS network. Look at the structured stuff that can give you the direct links into companies, that can help you with your CVs, but not just helping you by someone who is helping you restructure your CV to make it less military. Everyone said make it less military, but structuring your CV to be more targeted to the job or the company that you're aiming to go in for, understanding what they're looking for. And that comes with, linking in with somebody, with an organisation that understands the industry that you're going in, or the company itself, if they've got a military network that can support you with that. Good luck.
Jamie, thank you very much, and it's a lovely segue into what comes next. Jamie mentioned obviously the fact he's doing the senior leadership apprenticeship and has grown in the business. Growing the business is really important. Again, Jamie mentioned all the different sites we've got, the different sectors. That allows you to move physically, but also through career as well. So the next person who's going to speak is Carly. Again, you've seen her on the video, but Carly is our talent development manager, and she'll talk a little bit about her story. But also how we take that talent, that 5% that John mentioned, which we reinvest into our people. Over to you, Carly.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. Hi, everyone. I appreciate I'm the last one on. I hope I can grasp your attention and make it worthwhile for you. Thanks everyone else for sharing their stories. It's really lovely to hear. I know we all chat and stuff, but it's really nice to hear kind of the transition piece as well that you don't get to hear because we're too busy working. So my name's Carly, as Mike said. I am with the core learning development team as talent development manager, and I just want to kind of put out there that although we are in industry, we do still have a huge support services. Just like the attached arms, when you're in the military, the big corps don't get to work right if you don't have the support services behind them. L&D sits within HR. Now, I did 12 years within the Med Corps. I was also an Arabic linguist, but a big part of the stuff that I love to do, I knew wasn't going to transfer over into civilian life. I was done with healthcare. I tried in the NHS, it just wasn't for me. But the thing that I took away from it was I have transferable skills, and I think that's really important. So if there's anybody on the call that doesn't have a trade, you've still got very valuable skills that we can utilize. So for me, I was really interested in my teams. Like when we were in the military, it was all about what can I do for my guys? How can I get my guys to progress? Like, you're always looking for your successor so that you can move on and you know that everything's going to be left how you are. And it was just a natural jump for me to kind of leap into the HR talent development kind of world. So I tried a few smaller companies, didn't really sit with me. They're all saying, yes, we have to do L&D, we have to look after our people, ticking the box exercise. I joined Altrad in January when the strategy was just being released about this 5% going in. And I'll be honest, I was a little bit skeptical because you hear all these big, this is what we're going to do. They are delivering. And I'm at the forefront of that and seeing it day on, day out. Jamie's a good story from there. You know, he's on his level 7. And we do really invest in our people. I'll talk about it in a little bit, but the way that we do that is a lot of people have talked about kind of the skill sets that we're looking for coming through. Leadership is a big one of them. You know, you need to be able to lead because as well as your day job, I think Jamie touched on it, there's so many projects you can jump into. I think myself, I'm on about 4 or 5 projects at the moment around my full-time normal role. So that project management element that we all kind of knee-jerk, that's what we're good at, can still be utilised even if you choose a different path within Altrad. So problem solving is the second one that I just think is so important for such a forward-thinking company. You know, John touched on it earlier, our CEO, that we do the big acquisitions. You know, you've got to have that problem-solving mindset because it's, yes, we're going to do this, but figure out the how later. And that it's really important. The third for me is your resistance and adaptability. So things change really quickly in everyday life. It's the only consistent. We know that everything's going to change. Having the resilience to manage that, not only manage that change, but be in that change, and also the adaptability to follow it through and just go with the flow, I think is really good. We all know how many times we've been on the bus, off the bus, serving with the military. It really doesn't change in civilian life. There's some huge comparisons there. So for me, that's why I kind of got into the L&D department. A big part of my role at the moment is development. So this 5% from the business does go back into it. Not only is it professional development, where it is like Jamie's on his level 7, I think we've got something like 183 other apprenticeships going on this year alone. That's not anybody on the 2nd and 3rd years. There's all kinds of continuous improvement courses, project management, all that kind of personal development that we put back into our people. We also do leadership and management development. We have 3 courses that are Altrad programs that have been designed and developed for the benefit of the business. The first one is called Elevate. This is a week-long residential in the Lake District. Phenomenal course. It's like going adventure training. You get out, you're in the mountains, you're hill walking, you're canoeing on lakes. It's fantastic. But we utilise that coming back into the business. So there's a follow-up. So you don't just go out, have a week off and then come back to work. We progress you through the business kind of with the strategies that are implemented on the call. We then step that up to people who we see potential for senior leaders. And that is another fantastic course through one of our third-party providers who we now partnered with. And we do have a senior leadership one as well, which is piloted this year. So the development never stops. And I think it's really important to know that there is a full career with Altrad. It's not just you're in a job, you know, that there's the career development there. And as long as I'm here, I'll always be pushing it and fighting for more and more and more because I just see so much value in it. My little strapline at the end was, you know, the grass is greener where you water it, and I'm a big believer in that. I think Paul nearly pinched it at one point. I was a bit worried there, but this is where the watering part comes in. If you grasp these opportunities with both hands, Altrad will water you to make you flourish, and that's where these development programs come in. So I hope that was helpful.
Hey, brilliant, Carly. Thank you very much for that. Really, really good. And those programs are really important. They go for various levels throughout the business, and it's because we believe in the career progression, just like the military does. So there's a question in the chat which I'll address straight away, which is from John Healy, who I'm sure is the Defence Secretary, but I'm sure he's not on the call. But if you are and you're looking for a new job, John, there you go. But he's talking about whether there's opportunities down south. Well, yes, there are. And the next part of the brief, I was just going to show you some of those opportunities, just really sort of snapshots. But for example, I mentioned Hinkley Point C at the start. There's 3 jobs that we've got out there right now. You give us sort of a range. You can see they're all in the engineering space, absolutely. That's the sort of thing that we've definitely got in Hinkley Point C. If you live in the Bristol area, you're going to resettle into that area, the southwest of England. There is loads and loads of opportunities in this growing area of our business. And indeed, also down south, John, we've got Forley on the south coast, which we have works doing, and in time there'll be Sizewell C over in Suffolk. So there are plenty of roles down south as well, albeit our heartland, northeast, northwest, central Scotland, for sure. But that's just Hinkley Point C. Again, I'll just chuck up some other statistics you can have a quick look at. At any one time, we'll probably have 150 at a time, 165 there is, open what we call white collar roles. White collar roles, those managerial type roles, those back office type roles, rather than the trade roles where we're always recruiting. So if you've got a trade or you want to go into a trade, we're always looking for people on that. That's the lifeblood. But in addition, there's always that sort of figure that's around there. You know, look out for them, look out on our website, that's for sure. Look out on CTP Right Jobs, they'll be on there as well. We'll also be using BuildForce to show and advertise the roles we have, so we can match you to the roles that we have got. And as it says on the, I won't go through all those bullets, but you know, Hinkley Point C and Sutherland, absolutely. Lots of other locations as well. But also, you know, if we think we're just about technical, of course, you know, a technical role, you know, come from a trade background, of course, we're really interested in talking to you. There's loads of people like Jamie, Remy people in the business already, absolutely. But don't forget, Carly was in the medics, Paul was a Royal Artillery person, and I was an infantry. So, you know, we have come from different backgrounds, and that's because there's a whole bunch of other roles, maybe not quite as plentiful as the technical and engineering roles, but have a look at those on the screen. Real variation of salary, real variation of location. And again, just look at those roles, and there's plenty of stuff all around the country that we can potentially offer. And there's the email address that we want you to engage with. And the final thing, and John mentioned this at the start, and you saw the little video, is what we are doing for the veterans in the business. And that's the establishment of the Altrad military network. We signed the covenant, we're on the ERS, we want to get higher on that, absolutely. You know, what we do is when you come to us, email direct, that means that one of us will look at your CV. So a military person will look at your CV straight away. If you're coming to us and want to chat with somebody military, one of us will talk to you about what life is like. And then if you do join us and you end up becoming part of the team, I will find a mentor for you to talk you through those first few weeks. You know, those silly questions like, so how does pensions work in the commercial sector? What does this mean? You know, Jamie referred to the sort of commercial stuff earlier, and absolutely that is something we have to learn. We're not commercial in the military. It's a skill that we must have when you're entering the sector. So, but don't be afraid of that. It will take time, and we can talk you through some of that as well. So we really do value that. What we're planning. The other thing which we absolutely are offering, this is news hot off the press today, is if you do come to that point where, you know, a hiring manager wants to have a chat with you longer, then come and spend a few days with us, maybe even a couple of weeks, and that's what we mean by the work experience, the sort of the time that you can spend with us on either on site or in one of our offices, so you can see us and we can see you. So the sort of things that we're trying to put in place, not yet in place, and maybe they won't, maybe we won't get there, but this is what we're trying to do. An entry-level program. So if you're coming out and part of the military either a bit early or without what you would see the sort of technical skills that we sort of live off, then we're going to try and upskill you in an entry-level program from about January. It might be a little bit later than that. We're trying to take those people who do have the MBQ3s in their trade. So if you're a REME VM or an aircraft engineer or an aeronautical engineer or a naval engineer, maritime engineer, what can we do with you? We will reskill you into the sort of trades that we need, and that hopefully could be done during your resettlement time. Again, trying to get that in place in early 25. We're trying to put in place a bespoke pathway for offshore, because when you come to the offshore sector, you have to learn, you become what's known as a green hat, and we're trying to put in place the training that you would need to then be recruited in as a green hat, and off you go. And then finally, the one which I'm really keen to do, which is a pathway to supervisory roles and sort of a leaders program. Again, trying to build that, and if we can get that in place, we'll take a few people each year and put them on that sort of elevator into the supervisory roles that are so critical to what we do. So they're things in train, not there yet, but we're planning to do that. But with the stuff above that is what's in place right now. So do come and see us if you get to that stage. Great. Well, I think that's finished us bang on time. And I think we're now going to throw the floor open to conversation and to discussion. And Angela and Caroline will be there as well. I don't know how you've done it in the past, whether people just put their hand up and we go to them, or chuck a question in the chat, or unmask on the microphones. Not sure, but we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mike. That was incredible. Thank you very much. To anybody that wants to ask a question, just whatever takes your fancy, just raise your hand or write it in the box. But again, thank you, Mike, to all of your speakers. They were incredible. What I'll do, just whilst we're waiting for some hands to go up, I'll just warm you all up. So we'll start with you, Mike, because you kicked us off. So John had mentioned the growth that's required to meet the pipeline within your revised strategic plan, and talent sits at the heart of that growth. And the business has credited this military talent as sitting front and centre of that. So now you're on the other side. What is so great about this military community? What are you finding?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, there's a reason why I'm in the job I'm in, and there's a reason why we're doing the things that we are doing. So my role is to help the business to grow. So I'm the head of talent acquisition, and I'm looking for talent, not just military talent, but all sorts of talent from across the UK. And I find myself in all sorts of places trying to get into those pools of talent that perhaps hitherto we haven't reached. They haven't considered us, didn't know about us, didn't know about this sector. But what's special about the military bit, and you see it with the military that are in the business right now, is the mindset. There is the skills, for sure, the transferable skills, absolutely. And Jamie made a great point there about what we think is transferable. Actually, if you look a little bit harder, you'll find even more transferable skills that you can read across. But what really matters is that ability to get things done. It's slightly different in the civilian world in terms of how you do it, but that mindset of completion, mindset of wanting to ensure that which you've been asked to do gets delivered, is something which is fantastic that military people have. So that mindset of not stopping until we have delivered the mission, which is the DNA of any military person, is absolutely so critical to an organisation that John described as very entrepreneurial. And what he really means by that is, if you've got an idea, we'll try and back you and go and deliver it. And it's a pretty flat structure in order to do that. So I think that's what I'd say. But I think that question is probably, anybody else from the military network who might want to throw in what they see from those military that are coming in. Or not. Never mind. Let me give you an example. We've just taken on a young REME Lance Corporal, I think he was. His name's Dario. He works down at Sizewell B. He came in because he'd finished. He just wanted to get going. He lived in sort of the Colchester area. We chucked him onto Sizewell B over in Suffolk. He's now team leader, and he was on 10k more than he went in with, as in he went into negotiations with. So, and he's away, he's up, he's running, and that's the sort of thing that we need. He came in and just wanted to do a sort of a trade job. Immediately came in as a team leader because we thought we had the skills to do so, that desire to get things done.
I'm going to ask a question on Alex's behalf. So Alex within our team heads up our aftercare programme. And the one thing that we do see is a lot of the military programmes are quite focused and intense in those first 3, 6, 9 months of onboarding and starting with a new employer. How are the veterans coping 2, 3, 4 years into it, Mike? Are you finding that they still need that community and network? Do you spend the rest of your life transitioning, or?
Yeah, it's a really good question, isn't it? I'll bring in Paul in a minute because he's obviously been out for some time, and I'm sure Jane probably wants to add. In fact, all of them, myself and Andy, are fairly new to this, and so we've only really recently transitioned. We put the network in for many reasons. We put the network in to manage the transition into the business, which we thought was very important. Those silly questions, those just helping you get heard within the business. When you're going through the recruitment process. But actually the benefits of the network, I think, is more those who are in the business already, knowing that they are respected, valued, and have a voice and a different sort of network. We are all of us extraordinarily proud of our military service. We have done extraordinary things that perhaps don't quite ever come out in conversations because perhaps we don't want them to, but this is effectively, to use a sort of a vogue word, a safe space, a space where we can talk about the 24-hour clock. We can say a language that otherwise doesn't quite appear, so or doesn't quite resonate with our civilian colleagues. So it's absolutely there. Now, at the moment, we haven't had to catch anybody because they're presented with the sort of issues that sometimes comes out through a veteran service. But we know we've got the network in case that does occur. Remembrance is coming up on Monday. It's a great time to reflect. We as a business will take that moment to reflect on everybody's service. So the network is there, not just for the entry. It's there to provide that support network across the business should it be needed. And so far, so good. But I mean, Paul, what's your experience? You've been around for a bit.
It's for me within Altrad. I suppose one thing I learned pretty much straight away was if I'd done a task or if I'd just done something of my own accord, I would be getting a double high fives for it and saying, "Oh, well done, Paul. I don't know how you thought about that," or so. And I'd just be looking around thinking, "Well, that's just the norm. That's what you do." So it's again taking that military experience of just from little things have always been that 5 minutes early and so on and so forth, which again in the civilian world is a massive, huge thing. Just them little small details are huge things in the civilian world. Just taking time out to bring in a notepad out while you're on the job, small things like that. Now, these are the small details that I look for now within the team. So whenever I'm delivering a toolbox talk, I look to see who's got a watch on, who's going to bring the notepad out. Because if you bring your notepad out, someone's paying attention. If they've got a watch on, they're going to be on time, or they're conscious of meeting the task or meeting at the end of a deadline. And again, those small things get highly recognised within Altrad. And already now I'm planning my career progression within Altrad, and for the next couple of months I'll be sitting a paint inspector's course, and again moving further on within the industry and moving onwards and upwards. Now, just how much that hard work gets recognised, again, I've been with Altrad for just over a year and a half, and I've went from just a rope access painter to a foreman. So I pretty much missed the charge hand and went straight to a foreman's role. And that's solely because of my previous military experience, hands down, without a doubt. So again, and of course, I'll touch on it because it's what makes the world go round. The jump in pay from a rope access painter to a foreman is significantly significantly higher than what your base level would be. So the opportunities again is endless, especially offshore. If you're in that right mindset and you want to do more, you want to earn more, you want more responsibility, and you've got an eye for that safety, then again, bringing everything from you've learned from the military. When we say lose some things off your CV, I don't mean just start wiping things out, because when I get some of the CVs from Mike to have a look at, if they or for the offshore sector, I will have a look at things and I think that person, he or she, may be absolutely spot on for the offshore industry. So again, if it comes to me, I will see that and I will ask you to change a few things. But you could have some things on there. Again, I was from the artillery, and I was probably the best PTI ever as well also. So that's probably why I got highlighted, really, to be honest, within Altrad. But aside from that, again, I couldn't sing and dance more about Altrad and the support that they give.
That's incredible.
I think that the military network in Altrad is a new thing. You know, when I first joined the business, it wasn't in existence. I've seen it be created, and I've seen it rise, and it has risen at a quick pace. You know, and I wouldn't have got in contact with Paul or other people in the network, you know, without it. You know, it has created a network within an organisation, you know, for people who trod similar paths, and you know, it's a good network to be involved in, and it's new for Altrad. Other companies have it, and they might be ahead of us on the pathway, but you know, we're growing at a rapid rate, and it is becoming a part of the business now that is looked at. That, you know, it's important because Altrad have got, you know, big ambitions to raise the number of employees. So, you know, this can open up a whole new channel they've never really utilised before.
Okay, just on that as well, you've got a direct link to veterans and people who are doing these jobs. That's the most important thing. And again, I'll touch on the offshore. It used to be such a lucrative work where you would have to know someone to get into an offshore, to get a start and so on. Now, with the military network, you've got a direct link. You've got someone there who's living, breathing in there. And if you are lucky enough to come from me, I know Mike will second this, that I will run round that rig and find out if there's a suitable position somewhere for you. And that's what I do. And it is a promise. I know if there's anyone who has spoken to on this chat, I do that. And that's the beauty of it, because I've been exactly where you are.
I'm holding you to that, Paul. I'm holding you to that, Paul. I'm going to call you later and get you running. I want it videoed.
Yeah, press ups on the way as well. Press ups and chin ups.
Well, I only do 100 on each step, so I've calmed down a bit.
You're just showing off now, you military boys. You're just showing off. Right, Gavin's question has come in. So he's saying he's a logistician over 27 years, but he's asking what management qualification or project management qualification would you prefer? I think everybody's immediate signpost is the APMs, PMQs, the Agiles, the Prince 2s. Have you got a preference, Mike?
I'm going to let Carly answer that question.
I was going to say, do you want me to jump on this?
Carly.
I have just answered it in the chat as well. What we need to look at is what area we're going into, because as I've just put in the chat there, sometimes experience overwrites the professional qualifications, and that's where we look at the transferable skills. And you know, a big part of what we're doing at the moment as a company is looking at compliance, because just because you're qualified on paper doesn't mean you have the experience to fulfill that role properly. So that's the kind of things we're looking at through recruitment as well. It's those transferable skills and what experience you can bring to the table. It's not all about professional calls anymore.
So you'll have a proper chat with somebody based on their merits and experience, which is
Absolutely.
fantastic to hear. Just to you, Ali, you started us off very strongly, so thank you about that. You kicked off talking about the PPP framework that you're working on, and as Mike said, this is a safe space. So what was that civilian partnership like, and what did you learn about yourself in those first 3 months working in this new space?
I think the very first thing that I'm only just twigging to now, I think, is to cool your beans a bit. So I arrived and I sort of vaguely expected something a bit like a military handover. You know, there'd be a timetable and there'd be sort of, you know, people all lined up ready to meet you, and you know, and there'd be a list of jobs that you needed to get on with. None of that existed, and I was sort of, and particularly because I was within, you know, you're one part of a much bigger framework, so you didn't know who was out. You know, nobody has a badge, nobody's got their role on their email addresses, so you don't know who to talk to, and it's almost like that. It's like a can opener. You've got to get in and just sort of, you know, get those first few contacts, and then obviously, you know, the network really starts to grow. But that sort of, this isn't going to happen on day one, week one, or even probably week three. Just relax, and that pressure that you put on yourself to immediately perform and sort of do what you know you can, through, you know, your you know, however many years that you've spent in the military, you sort of, you know that you can just get on and start delivering. Well, you know, nobody's expecting you to do that on the first week, and I think it's taken me, you know, the 3 months that I've been here, just to take a deep breath, not worry about it, but actually I can see that I've got a network around me, both from Altrad and wider, who are absolutely helping me to, you know, learn a new business and add value. And, you know, there's a lady who was who actually from Altrad, who's been really helpful, and she was in the Navy in the 1990s, and, you know, even at that sort of distance, has been really helpful in understanding where I'm coming from, and the challenges that I've been facing.
So the synergies pleasantly surprised you between the two, didn't they? And the transition wasn't quite falling off a cliff, which I think is the fear. You mentioned the invaluable advice of networking. So for those listening in, is that, like, what do they need to do as soon as they hang up from here? Is it reaching out to old colleagues? Is it trawling through LinkedIn? How do you network?
I think it's a bit of all of those things. So I use LinkedIn as a way to open conversations. I used BuildForce, who really helpfully sort of targeted me with you know, with a couple of people who were able to sort of sit down and you know, really give me several hours of their time, and also just, you know, as you said, the mates network. It's all of those things, but it is about, before you have a chat, because the answer isn't give us a job. It is very much, it's understanding what do you want to get out of that conversation. And one of the things that you should always want to get out of that networking conversation is a couple more contacts, and they'll put you in touch with a couple more people. And one of the things that you might think about is that job hunting is a bit like Swiss cheese, and actually getting all the holes to line up. Because if a company has just hired a person identical to you, then they might not want another identical person right now. But in that networking, if they can put you in touch with the next person and the next person, eventually, and hopefully quickly, all of those holes line up, and actually you find that person who really does need somebody, you know, just like you. So, you know, think about what you want to get out of that conversation, because everyone will talk to you about networking. Everybody will swing the lantern and talk about what they did. Just one thing that somebody said to me right at the very beginning when I signed off, they said, it's a little bit like doing an advanced contact across Senny Bridge. And there is, and all your mates are standing on the edge of that wood block, and they're all waving towards you saying, come this way, come this way. And eventually you'll pick one. And it's only when you start, you then realize as you get into that wood block that there's lots of cross paths as well. So it doesn't matter if you necessarily get it exactly right first time. You know, you can change, you can sort of, you know, find your way. But, you know, yeah, you use that experience, but don't worry that it's always going to be right first time.
I think just to add to that point, Ali, as well. I mean, I talked in my icebreaker about, you know, when I was leaving, I did some cold applications for PM associated roles, and I didn't get much traction with it. There's a bit of reverse engineering here. If you're not necessarily finding opportunities through the organisations that are there to support you, but you find something that you say, oh, that looks like I could do that, you know, that appeals to me. Use the organisations to help you with that rather than just cold apply and see if they can put you in touch, like Ali said, opening that can, see if they can get you in through, somebody who might know that area, that region, that industry, that even that company, and get you some sort of insider knowledge, that might help your CV, your application, your covering letter, or even, if you get to interview stage. So it's not just about, using these organisations to get you in the room. It's also about when you see another opportunity, using the organisations, to help you with what you found off your own bat.
Thanks for that, Jamie. And you were a brilliant example of a self-starter. You mentioned how your military network aided you. But can I ask you, how did you compute or digest lots of advice or conflicting advice or unhelpful advice? How do you work through that phase?
So I very much used the old pals network. So it was very much on a trust basis.
Right.
So I wasn't sort of like crowded out by noise, but I didn't have much noise, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I suppose I was quite lucky. I had some good voices to listen to, and I got a good start. The more voices you get, sometimes the more it can be a distraction. So you've just got to be conscious of what people are saying and the volume they're saying it to you, and certainly the content of it. And using support organisations to maybe apply some filters to all that information can help. But like I said, I didn't use any of that. I just pretty much used the old pals network.
Right.
Mine was quite a lucky strike, but I think reflecting back on it, I didn't have a lot of options at the time, but I had some, but they were quality ones.
I was just going to add on. Everybody will give you advice on your CV, and there really is a point at which you need to take a squad average as to, if everybody's pointing out your spelling mistakes, and you probably need to sort out your spelling, and if everyone's pointing out the same things, then it is something. But at the same time, just back yourself and the message that you were trying to get across, because I had everything from it's too military, you've got to make it really civilian, completely left of arc. And I even had one person who told me to go back, write it all in complete military speak, because they were ex-military, and they would translate it. And if they didn't understand what it meant, there was always Google. So, you will come across everything. Back yourself, take the advice, but don't worry about following every single bit of every single person's advice.
Okay, no, great advice. Mike, a couple of questions that have come in. I'll channel through you. A great questions come in from Andrew. In terms of the CVs, and we do get this a lot, are they filtered by a human, by a veteran, by an AI platform? What does it look like within Altrad? And then I'll ask Caroline for the wider industry.
So I can 100% assure you that it's filtered by, if it comes in through that military.altrad.uk, UK thing that's on the screen, or indeed it's coming through from the BuildForce team, it will be read first by me. That's our current entry point. So we don't have AI yet within Altrad to do the recruitment thing. We are going to move to that level because everybody does. But there will, if you alert us to an application or alert us tell us that you are coming, then we will always put a veteran to read that CV and be able to translate it in. So that's where we are at the moment.
Thank you, Mike. And Caroline?
Yeah, I mean, it's echoing Ryan's comment earlier as well, that if you're applying through those generic, I don't know, CV review boards, jobs boards, that is AI, and your CVs will 9 times out of 10 get filtered out because you're not going to pass the 2 years industry experience for first off. And that's why BuildForce is so excellent, because you're talking to a person and we're talking to people on the employment side. So we're not going through AI and portals. We're going through to people like Michael, talent acquisition, hiring managers, and getting your CV in front of the people. Okay, so cutting out the robots, just use BuildForce.
Yeah, agree. Angela, I think there was a question from the wonderfully named Strategy 3 Limited.
I saw that, yeah.
So I don't know who that is, but it's a
He
great
had
name.
his hand up, but yeah, he's asked about location.
Ah, right, okay.
So yeah, so just on that then, can you clarify the south? He's based in Sussex, Brighton. Are you present there, Mike?
Oh, now you're stretching my geography.
It's not a mile away.
It's probably
Probably
isn't it?
the closest, the largest area.
Yeah. Yeah, so South Coast, our main activity there is we've got a big contract with ExxonMobil down in the oil refinery in that part of the world.
Okay,
Now,
and the Midlands?
It all depends in terms of, if you're looking for a trade role on the site, that's the lifeblood of Altrad. That's the 9,000 of the 10,000 site bases over those industrial things. In the South Coast, it's that. If you're, however, looking at more of the managerial roles, to be brutally honest, it doesn't really matter. I'll just caveat that in a second. But for example, John, our CEO, he works out of Warrington. His chief operating officer is Irish, works out of Ireland. I'm sat with Jamie here in Middlesbrough. That's where the operation is running. So we're spread all across the UK with offices, and it doesn't really, there is a real hybrid nature to what we do. I'll caveat that a bit. Some roles you need to be in the office to do that particular role. Absolutely. Some roles don't. So it's going to be very role specific. So Sussex, if it's trade, it's probably Forley. If it's not trade, then maybe an arrangement.
Okay, perfect. And a question about the Midlands. Have you got a presence there?
Yeah, we do. We've got an international school of welding in Tipton. Who'd have thought? In fact, that picture on the screen right now is of welders in Tipton learning their trade. We don't have many sites in the West Midlands, apart from Tipton, which is, as I said, is a training site. It's
also a resource depot. It's a national resource depot. So a lot of materials will come into there, will be stored, inventory moved on. That's so there is an operation there, as well as the Mike spoke about the training school. We don't just train welders there. We train project controls assistants as well. So people come in and learn how to do projects from the ground up, so to speak. We have apprenticeships that we run there. But on the operational side of it, it's a resource hub.
Okay, and a question from on behalf of a veteran, Sean. So he's been out for 14 years, was in telecoms, but would like a career change into health and safety. It's been a thread throughout his entire career, and he's just moving more and more towards realising he's very good and very competent at it. So there's a career there for him. He doesn't have the NEBOSHs or the IOSH, which are normally prerequisites. So what would your advice be there? Are these mandatory courses for Altrad? Is there an option to bring him in and then train him up? This is an example of a veteran.
Yeah, so it's a great question. There's a couple of things I'd say. First of all, safety is fundamentally important to Altrad in a way that perhaps in the military we sort of talk about it, and in some areas it's fundamental, but we don't quite get it. Here it's in the DNA, 100% in the DNA. So health and safety massively important. So therefore, we have a health and safety network across the business, which is people who are inspecting for health and safety. Health and safety on sites is a key thing too. So those roles do exist. Now, I'm not going to say they're plentiful, but they do pop up. For example, if you remember back to one of my slides earlier, I can tell you now that there is there it is, second bullet down, regional health and safety lead in the Northwest, recruiting right now. To answer the question directly, it does. If you want to get into this world, you're going to need to get qualified in this world. The NEBOSH General Certificate is a great way in, and then if you get even more of those NEBOSHs, fantastic, really good. That helps you. The reason for that, and of course, we would help you progress. But to get into, say, you want to get into the health and safety world, you'll need to sort of probably put a bit of investment, I think, yourself in order to come in. They are competitive, these jobs. They don't grow on trees. There's not masses of them, but you can see that we've got one advertised, ready to go.
There are attachments to NEBOSH as well, the oil and gas service as well. If people are interested in working offshore, or certainly in the onshore sector that support offshore, then getting them oil and gas elements of NEBOSH it is a prerequisite really for those areas. If you can do NEBOSH, I mean, I wasn't going into health and safety when I left but it was something I banked on resettlement. It was a 2-week course that I got funded through a resettlement grant, and it has helped me. You know, as performance and improvement roles that I've had, I've done improvements that have been safety related. So when you're dealing with safety professionals, it does put you closer to them, you know, and a lot of times when you're going out dealing with the workforce and they're suggesting improvements, then you need to have some basic understanding of the legislative requirements of what that improvement is going to look like within, you know. So it's not just a qualification required for someone who's going to be whose aspirations to be a health and safety professional. I would consider it as a secondary or tertiary option for someone who's going out looking for a managerial or support role. Get that safety qualification as well, because it's like Mike said, you know, this industry, safety is a key focus. It's, you know, it's everyone's responsibility, you know. So if you've got that as well, you've got the experience in the military of a lot of safety processes, you know, you're well versed with risk assessments and that sort of stuff. Having a qualification does help you, regardless of whether you're going for a direct safety role.
Great. Thank you, Jamie. I completely agree. Completely agree. Sorry, Mike.
I was just going to throw in that our Vice President Health and Safety is himself a veteran, ex-Royal Marines.
There you go. There you go. Listen, sorry, Paul, and you go.
Just on that, the one of the stepping stones for your health and safety. Now, offshore, I've got NEBOSH oil and gas, but one of the first health and safety qualifications you can get, and you can do it online, is IOSH Managing Safely. And that's a fantastic starting qualification, and it is very, very much recognized as well also. So that's your IOSH Managing Safely course.
Thank you, Paul. Font of all knowledge. So everybody's going to be chasing you after this call, but thank you for that. Listen, just for the comments that have come in, for those that are going to be watching this back on the BuildForce library, just the praise and applause to Altrad, both for their commitment to the armed forces, their military network, but from the veterans who are actually living it and experiencing that. So I just wanted to convey that, because not everybody will get to see those messages. But thank you to John, Ali, Paul, Jamie, Carly and Mike for their incredible contribution today. One of our strongest chats to our military community watching this. What an exceptional employer, strong talent in the business with great opportunities, and come with us is a strapline they live by, with grass being greener where you water it, as Carly advised, and they are certainly watering it. So you are not alone. BuildForce are here to support and guide you as you transition. So please get in touch if you have any questions, and we'll help you take it further. And I'll hand back to Caroline just for some final insights.
Oh, thank you. I'd just like to say that was fantastic, and I'm so excited to 2025, working closely with Altrad on those pathways. And I would just like to echo, Angela has as well, but that Carly and Paul, the grass indeed can be greener with BuildForce holding the watering can. You're not alone. We'll do it together. So please do reach out. We have 800 plus mentor network, and obviously our guys here. I'm going to be chasing Paul on that oil rig to get him down as our mentor. There's a challenge Annika. We'll do it. But we have more virtual career chats coming up. Our next one at the end of the month is Mott MacDonald, Women in Defence, followed in December by our talent acquisition and behavioural management, and ending with health and safety before, may I say it, will be the end of the year. So go and check us out on the events page. I will do a follow-up email, and you will be able to connect with Altrad. But please come to BuildForce, because we can track it and make sure that those engagements are happening. Have a great day, and thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you.